So, I've talked about this before, but I'm going to talk about it again because I have a really cool example of why science-based fitness or science-based whatever you want to call it, it doesn't work. And here's why. So, I was listening to Stu McGill. Good person to listen to. You should listen to everything that Stu McGill says. Very intelligent. Even if you disagree with some of his points, which there are things that I disagree with, but it doesn't matter, it will make you think at the very least, and you will undoubtedly learn something. And this is where I have to share this. Stu was talking about a study that was done in volleyball players to increase their vertical jump. And of course, the study decided that doing back squats increased vertical jump. Cool. Here's why this fails, though. Something like 35% of the lifters, like volleyball players that were doing the back squats, actually went backwards. Now, let that sink in for a moment. Okay? So let's say you have a team of 10 people, right? I'm not even picking volleyball here, just any sport. You have 10 people. You put them on an intervention, a program, or whatever. If 7 of them get results, 3 of them could actually go backwards. You can't just take a scientific study and make blanket decisions about how you want to train your athletes, or yourself for that matter. If I said to you that, oh, look at this study over here, we put people on a ketogenic diet and it decreased their performance. Okay? Digging deeper into the research, did it decrease performance for 100% of the people, or did it decrease performance for 60%, 70%, 80% of the people? Were there some people who saw an improvement in performance, right? So just like that, suddenly you have to start looking at the individual level. And I'm just using diet because that's an easy one, and people love to bash ketogenic diets. But conversely, people love the back squat. Everyone loves the back squat. Oh, the back squat. You gotta squat. I do agree you need to squat. I don't agree that you need to do a back squat. I'm all for literally any squatting variation. I tell people all the time, you need to squat, but I don't really care if it's back squats, front squats, overhead squats, sissy squats, hack squats, single leg squats. Everyone likes to call it a Bulgarian split squat. It just, yeah, because it's hardcore if it's Bulgarian. Choose a squatting movement. Pick the one that doesn't hurt and that you can do well. That's good enough. Unless you're competing in powerlifting, of course, then you'll need to do a powerlifting squat. Or you're competing in weightlifting, in which case you'll need to front squat and you'll need to overhead squat. But, I mean, if you're just a field sport athlete, go ahead and do Bulgarian split squats. It's not going to take anything away from you. No one's ever going to stop you in the middle of a game and be like, hey, before we run this play, who here has the biggest back squat? It's not going to happen. It won't. Barry Sanders. Do you think anyone cares if Barry Sanders had a 500-pound or 600-pound back squat? No. He can run, and he can change directions. So if he had a 1,000-pound back squat or a 300-pound back squat, it wouldn't make a difference. He would still be one of the greatest running backs of all time. Okay? So with that in mind, when we look at these interventions, right? Oh, back squats increase vertical jump. It did, but not for everyone. And when you're working with athletes, especially athletes at a high level, you really should be, guess what I'm going to say? Because I told you guys this was the secret to the Soviets. Data. You should be collecting data. So if I have an athlete and I put him on a squat program and his vertical jump goes down, we're not going to do that a second time in the future. In fact, we're going to figure out something else. And maybe he needs to do quarter squats. Maybe he needs to do box squats. Maybe he needs to not deep squat, right? But the point being, even if this works for 70% of athletes, it didn't work for him. So we're not going to do that a second time. If I find that, bench press improves, I don't know, some other metric, somebody's ability to throw the shot put, But then I have another athlete who does a whole bunch of bench press work and he's actually throwing shorter. We're not going to waste any more time with the bench press because it didn't work for him. I don't care if it works for 80%. I don't care if it works for 99% of people. If the guy I'm working with, it doesn't work for him, we're not going to do that anymore. Okay? And the same thing goes for literally anything, whether we're discussing diet or we're discussing, any type of aerobic training, any movement that you put in at all. The Franz Bosch stuff is really cool. What if it made you run slower? Then we're not doing that anymore. Okay? Oh, stretching. Stretching made this person run faster. Okay? But then it made someone else run slower. Well, for the guy that runs faster, let's go ahead and keep doing the stretching. But for the guy who ran slower, let's not do that again. And this sounds like common sense. Like what I'm saying to you right now actually sounds stupid coming out of my mouth. It's like, duh. And yet we watch people do it all the time. These coaches are like, oh yeah, you gotta squat, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. Somebody came out, what the hell is his name? Ryan Flaherty. And he came out with this thing about the trap bar deadlift in your 40 time. Okay? And that probably holds true for the majority of athletes. If you improve your trap bar deadlift, you will probably run faster in the 40. Does that work for 100% of athletes? No. I can tell you that because I got my trap bar deadlift way up and I didn't run any faster. Why doesn't that work very well? Well, I probably don't have the same mechanics as many of these other people who are naturally gifted at running. In fact, actually, I'm a piss poor runner. I have very deep hip sockets, and my hips they sit back, so I'm not really built to run very well. So me improving my trap bar deadlift, it's not going to make me a better runner because I'm not built to be a great runner in the first place. So, what makes me a better runner? I need to hammer things like Nordic hamstring curls and GHD work, like glute ham raises and Roman chair work, because my body likes to be quad dominant. Yeah, my body likes to build quads, and it's just the way I'm built. So if I squat and deadlift and all that stuff like that, I get bigger quads and my hamstrings don't do anything. So I have to do things like good mornings and RDLs and, like I said, glute ham raises to really hammer my hamstrings because for the way that my hips sit, whenever I squat or deadlift, I get a lot of quad activation and very little hamstring activation. So especially whenever I'm doing a trap bar deadlift, I get a ton of quad and very little hamstring and glute. Biomechanics, it's just the way my body's built. Does that work for the majority of people? Supposedly so. But the point that I'm making is exactly that. Just because something works for the majority of people doesn't mean it will work for you, nor does it mean it will work for your individual athlete. And this is why you need to track data. The reason I know that improving my track bar deadlift did not improve my sprints, data. I timed it. I ran slower. Okay, that didn't work real well. So, in the future, we don't make that mistake a second time. Like I said, it sounds like common sense. But I think the problem with common sense is that sometimes we know better, and yet we read something and we believe that thing to be true, and so we decide, I must just not be doing it hard enough, I must not be doing it right. You heard something that, this hip thrust movement is the best movement to improve your broad jump, and then you're going backwards, so then you're like, I must not be doing it right because this study says that the hip thrust is better. Well, maybe it's better for the majority of people. Maybe it's better for more than 50% of people, but that doesn't mean that it's the best one for you or the best one for your athlete. And that's why we come back full circle. You need to collect data. And in a weird way, that's actually science-based in itself, but now you're doing like N equals 1, right? You're doing a study on one person and finding what works for that one person, rather than digging through a study and saying, this works for everyone. You can't make that conclusion. Look at any study. There's always outliers. There's always people that didn't work for you. And we put people on statins. Some of them still had heart attacks. Maybe statins don't prevent heart attacks for 100% of people. That's a totally different topic because actually the research on that is really bad. But that's just another example. If we put people on medication X, does it cure them? Maybe for 90% of people. What about the 10% that it didn't? Well, tough shit. We're better than that. We can do better than that, and especially as a coach, You need to do better than that, because it's really not that hard for you just to take some simple data. This isn't curing cancer here. I mean, we're literally just measuring how high did you jump relative to how much you improved your back squat. Like, this is not rocket science.